One of the things that I'm scared about is that one of the things we tell each other about how to make change is to vote. I'm very worried about the Voting Rights Act and what they're going to be hearing tomorrow. What are your expectations in terms of the dilution of voting rights for minorities and the other threats to voting rights with this court this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's existential. And I think what you said initially is exactly correct, which is this is not the beginning of a process. This is a process that began with Shelby County. It began with Citizens United. It began with Brnovich 2 years ago when Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act was circumscribed. So this is really what's left of a Voting Rights Act that has been eviscerated by this court. And I think if they do what I suspect they're going to do tomorrow, and we hear about it in the spring, it's going to be almost impossible to effectuate the rights that were protected, as you said, under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which was the crown jewel of how we were going to get to fair voting. And so I think that if you put that in tandem with the Moore case that you were talking about, the independent state legislature case, what you are really looking at is an attempt to do in black robes what Donald Trump and John Eastman tried to do in the 2020 election, which is say we are going to give state legislatures almost unfettered power to do what they will with elections, to do what they will with gerrymandering, to do what they will with vote suppression, up to and including election denialism, right? That is the Harper case. And I think once you're there, and it's unreviewable, if it turns out that it's unreviewable by state courts under state constitutions, you are essentially greenlighting the thing that didn't happen in 2020 just because it was too soon.
Mm-hmm. If the court, in terms of court legitimacy, which is a term that I think is thrown around a lot without people understanding what it means, if court legitimacy continues to be in flux the way it is now, it feels like it's in free fall, actually, more than in flux. Do you think the justices themselves end up starting to worry about people following their orders and people start following their rulings? Do you think they're conscious of that as a threat?
Rachel, a year ago, I would have said yes. A year ago, I would have said, you know, SB 8, the shadow docket, all of the ethics stuff that we saw around Clarence Thomas's wife being involved, at least tangentially, in January 6th, and him failing to recuse himself for a case squarely about January 6th. At any point in that process, up to and including the Dobbs leak, I would have said this is a court that is in trouble. The wheels are coming off. They understand there's no plan B for the rule of law. Once it's gone for decades. I no longer have any confidence that that's bothering them. And I would go so far as to say, I think when Justice Alito and Chief Justice Roberts are scolding us for having conversations about legitimacy rather than asking themselves what they could have done differently, I think it's just evidence to me, A, of gaslighting, but B, evidence that they don't care.
Dahlia Lithwick is the author of Lady Justice, Women, the Law, and the Battle to Save America, and, you know, by nature, a very cheery person.
Thank you so much.
It's good to see you.